And a lot of these regular techniques like just unfollow her, and that's so uncomfortable to sit with, but it is necessary. Do you feel behind in life? Is understanding that multiple emotions can exist at the same time. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a more difficult topic, which is jealousy, and how do you deal with jealous feelings as a feminine woman. I have so many notes for this video, so by the way, if you catch me like looking at my phone or staring down, that is why, because we have a lot to cover. Since this is a topic that when I was searching on the internet, going through my struggles, I wasn't able to find anybody tackling it from a feminine lens or just tackling it in a real and raw, authentic way and actually giving tangible tips on how you can address jealousy in your life as a feminine woman. And so for that reason, when I was praying about the topic I wanted to discuss on the channel today, instead of doing one of my more frivolous topics, which still like subscribe, hit the notification bell because a beauty video is coming out soon, jealousy just spoke to me as something that somebody needed to hear, something that one of you out there is currently dealing with, and you need big sisterly advice on how to overcome it. Before we get into the video, I wanted to shout out my members who support the channel. It means so much to me. If you're interested in supporting my work, I will leave a link down below. But nevertheless, liking the videos, leaving your own comments, all those things do help the algorithm push out my smaller and slightly more controversial channel, so it means so much to me. And you will probably hear my kids here and there in the background. I think I've almost cracked the code on how to keep them busy, but it's still a work in progress and definitely not perfect. So jealousy, when we hear that word, we immediately feel shame, especially those of us who gravitate towards femininity. It's uncomfortable, it's ugly, it doesn't radiate softness. However, if you've ever compared yourself to another woman, or if you've ever felt small in your accomplishments or as if you're not doing enough, you've definitely dealt with the feeling of jealousy. If you've secretly harbored resentment towards somebody else or like some sort of circumstance in your life, you've probably felt this emotion. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can't truly embody feminine radiance and feminine energy if jealousy is living in your heart, because jealousy hardens you and it blocks that feminine flow. It blocks your ability to receive and it blocks your ability to love freely, even in friendship, and your ability to interact with pretty much anybody. It replaces inspiration for irritation. And what really bothers me is that a lot of advice out there is basically just about like, just unfollow this person. And although that is a small piece of the puzzle, which I will get into later on in the video, it kind of just shoves the emotion down and it doesn't give you the tools to deal with it. And if you want to live a true feminine, authentic life, you have to learn how to deal with this natural emotion and redirect it, kind of like transmute it in your life. And I'm speaking from experience in, like I mentioned, trying to find content out there that helped me deal with my jealousy, because although I really find myself to be like a girl's girl type of person, I come from a competitive household and that has benefited me a lot in my life, but it's also caused for me to not have the tools to deal with jealous emotions and to kind of read every situation like a competition. And because I thrive in my femininity, I don't want any of that energy in my life. I don't want any of that competitive spirit. I don't want to rank myself. I don't want to compare myself to others. And it's been a long process in learning how to do that, but I finally feel comfortable and at a place in my life where I can teach all of you what I had done. So I want to start by talking about what jealousy is. Now, I mentioned that it's a pretty normal human emotion. It's not necessarily a flaw, but it's more so a signal. It's a mirror and a warning sign. And most advice, like I mentioned, is just to kind of pretend that it's not there. But it silently grows like a weed, but in your personality, in your heart, and it blocks femininity. Jealousy, you have to understand, is not really about somebody else or the circumstance. It is about feelings that you hold of inadequacy or feeling as though you are behind. You might not necessarily be jealous of a person's outfit. You have to really analyze and realize that you are jealous of the ease at which she dresses herself or she carries herself. If you're still in the dating phase, you're probably not jealous of your friend and her husband, but you're probably jealous of the safety that she feels in her relationship. You're probably not jealous of somebody else's glow up. You're probably jealous of the peace and beauty freedom that it gave to her. Jealousy is a way that your heart and your subconscious mind tells you, hey, there's a part of yourself that needs to be nurtured, that doesn't feel as though it's enough right now. And that's difficult. It's difficult when you, like, perhaps surface level think that you believe in yourself and you have it all together, but then you feel these emotions and they kind of like come out at left field, whatever the saying is. But it's important to stop and realize that they are a mirror to what I would like to call emotional debt. And a lot of these regular techniques, like just unfollow her or just like practice gratitude, although they are a piece of the puzzle, they're kind of like just paying off the interest of a credit card, but never getting to the balance. Unfollowing somebody doesn't deal with the wound, because whatever triggered you from like seeing that person is just going to resurface in another situation or another person that you see online. It avoids the mirror where you have to look deeper in yourself. So yes, you have to create boundaries. Like, there's a big difference from perhaps feeling irritation by somebody in your social circle and like being constantly bombarded with their success online or in person. Create some boundaries for yourself. Don't obsessively check that person's stories. Like, don't constantly be putting yourself in their presence, but recognize that you have to deal with the root, or the trigger is just going to move from one person to another, from one situation to another. So that brings me to my second concept that I also find many people don't talk about, but it's so important to understand, and that is that life is not fair. Healing from jealousy means understanding that life is not fair, especially those of you who grew up in North American culture where we really idolize the concept of the American dream, living from nothing, building a whole life, like pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And although that is very valid and true in many aspects, there are still so many factors that cause for like not everybody to start at the same finish line, or different circumstances that come into our life that are unexpected, that are tragedies, that are obstacles. No two people have a life that looks the same. And so in our culture, we are raised to think that life is linear, that just keeps getting better and better, that like your success will come eventually, that you will be the victor in the situation, that things will just get better if you keep trying and trying. And again, there is a lot of truth to those core beliefs, but that's not always true. Some women will have the husband sooner than later. Some women will have the house that you want. Some women will have the health and the fertility and the glow. And some women are just born in areas that give them an advantage over others. And some women are just born more naturally attractive than others. And the feminine path, that's why this video reroutes back to femininity and jealousy, is understanding that yes, you can put in a lot of effort, and you should put in a lot of effort into your life, but you can't fix the things that are unfair. So you have to accept your life with grace and happiness. True femininity is not about life will look perfect someday. True femininity is about, even if I don't succeed, or even if life doesn't look the way that I imagined it to be, it's still worth living. I can still find joy. I can still find happiness. I can still find peace. I can still find love. I can be content in my life circumstances, because that's where radiance thrives. And jealousy, back to the concept of a weed, prevents that radiance from outflowing. It's not about the masculine path of like finally achieving the maximum glow up and being like the hottest woman alive. It is about setting your goals, intentionally working towards them, but accepting and loving the process no matter the outcome. In the Bible, jealousy is often portrayed as a warning. For example, in James 3:16, for where envy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every evil practice. So it's important, again, to look at jealousy like a mirror and really address the root, so that we don't have any of that evil envy that spews out as a result of the festering emotions of jealousy. Scripture reminds us that we are never overlooked, that God knows the desires of your heart, but he also honors the woman that is thankful and content in the quiet seasons of her life. And that feeds into the greater concept that the world can never truly break down a feminine woman. No matter what happens in her life, she will be strong. So it's so worthwhile to get to that root of what your jealousy is. Not just ignore it, not just mute, not just unfollow, not just harbor that negative energy, but take the time to look at what it says about you. And that's so uncomfortable to sit with, but it is necessary to be a thriving feminine woman. Now, I do want to move on and talk about the concept that I mentioned at the beginning of the video of transmuting jealousy into femininity. You have to think about jealousy as heat. All the energy is heat. Science nerds will know. And your body needs to release that heat. So what are you going to do with it? Tips and tricks that I have found helpful is number one, naming it. Say out loud, I'm feeling jealous. Or if you have good girlfriends in your life, I have friends that I can openly talk to about this. Tell them, I am feeling jealous of like whatever circumstance or whatever person. Saying it out loud helps you take ownership of it, and it helps you feel a little bit ashamed of it. And again, I do want to reiterate, it's not that shame where we push it down. It's that shame where we take ownership of it. And once you take ownership of it, even if you have to say it out loud to yourself, analyze what it triggered in yourself. Do you feel behind in life? Do you feel not attractive? Do you feel that your life is boring? Do you feel like you don't have enough money? Do you feel like you need to nurture your relationship because yours isn't matching up? You have to ask yourself and own your triggers, even if they look at surface level to be ugly. Then you take this heat and you alchemize it. You transmute it. And this is hyper feminine because the feminine is all about taking raw material and making it into something beautiful. So that's what you can do with your jealousy. It's taking something that might necessarily not be beautiful, it's raw and authentic, and turning it into something creatively beautiful. If you're jealous of somebody else's appearance, instead of festering over it or like trying to analyze how you can do the exact same thing, walk away and go take care of yourself. Go take a long, warm everything shower. Go light some candles. Go give yourself a pedicure. Go redo your makeup. Put on new makeup. Do something that nurtures yourself. If you are jealous of somebody's vibrancy or their warmth or their confidence, ask yourself how you can be gentler today, how you can be gentler right now. Think about your feminine communication. How can you speak more softly to others? Go watch my videos on feminine communication or go binge watch my femininity playlist. Incorporate a new feminine body language element into your daily routine. The trick is you don't want to stay stagnant. You need to alchemize the jealous feelings. And a lot of these things sound basic, and oftentimes on this channel, a lot of things that I do talk about are basic, but it's about deprogramming the masculine competitive nature that is around your jealousy, for example, and turning it into something feminine. If you follow my advice and you do these small feminine tweaks in your life, I 99.9 guarantee that you are going to have better life satisfaction. And I honestly stand by that, because the harsh truth is that you cannot glow while you are competing. Women are different than men. However, we are raised in this culture to be the same as men. So we harbor our jealousy into competitive energy, which over time wears us down. You cannot glow as a woman when you are in competition. Back to that 99.9% advice, you cannot glow in competition as a feminine woman. The feminine thrives in abundance. And this is why many people thrive in traditional lifestyles with provider masculine men. It's not about bringing them back to the 1950s. It's not about, suppressing their talents, their gifts, if they want to have a job, that kind of thing. We're not going to get into the video deeply today about this. It's the concept of abundance, that a woman thrives in an environment of abundance. And abundance means so many different things, not necessarily monetary, but in the context of jealousy, abundance in the little aspects of self-care that you do to yourself. When you envy somebody, you are putting them above yourself. You are putting energy towards other people when you should be putting it towards doing little things that cause abundance in your femininity. Somebody complimenting another woman, or for example, doesn't mean that you are not special in your own way. I know that sounds very kindergarten, but many of you need to know somebody complimenting somebody else is not a threat to you. And in order to live in abundance, the best way is to celebrate other women, to uplift other women, to be a girl's girl. Tell yourself, I am not threatened by the success of other women. There is space for all of us, and I celebrate it. I want you to remind yourself that there are seldom few things in this world that require a number one winner. There is space for everybody to thrive. And the goal, again, is not about being the number one winner. The goal is to be happy, content, and abundant in your own life. The feminine woman understands that life is not a contest. Her light is not dimmed by another woman's light shining. I'm going to use another metaphor. I've started to do this in my videos, but like flowers don't compete, they bloom. But if you have a weed in your heart, the weed is going to impede your blooming. It's going to impede your garden. So you really need to tackle those weeds and understand that another woman's like flower blooming in her own season has nothing to do with your garden and your plot, your florals. But for a little bit of balance and not to be too cookie cutter in my advice, because I complained about that at the beginning of the video, there is still that element of unfairness in life and being able to mourn that as a feminine woman. Because what if her life is better than yours? What if that woman has the marriage, the baby, the career, the glow, the beauty? Well, you can mourn that. Tackling the weed allows you to grieve. And it's so important once you take ownership of that to grieve, to go through the process of mourning that. But when it comes to mourning and how the feminine woman would differ in being trapped in the, like the competitiveness, the masculine energy, the modern mentality of like hustling and competing, would be that she chooses out of her grief to feel joy anyway. It's a choice to own it, to understand that life is not fair, to make the steps to continue to work on yourself joyfully and with gratitude, and choose to be soft anyway. I wrote down something that I want you to say to yourself that could really help. Her life may be easier. She may have something deeply that I desire, but I still choose softness. I choose to trust the process of my own life. And that is what is going to give you the space, the abundance for your magnetism to thrive. Humility is not a bad thing for the feminine woman. And I did include a couple notes of things that are like warning signs that you want to look out for to make sure that your jealousy is not bubbling up, is not festering. Because it doesn't always look like anger and bitterness and, the ability to like own your emotion right away. If you are withdrawing from a friend or like interacting with her because her life is going well, if you are subtly jabbing and taking down someone else that you might secretly admire, you are like looking for flaws in her life, or you're like pointing it out, or you're gossiping about it. If you're dismissing somebody else's beauty, talent, saying like it's just luck, or like finding some sort of excuse like she had an enhancement, and like downing on that. And of course, like pretending that something that matters to you doesn't truly matter to you. Dismissing perhaps something that you wanted, like a job or an education path that somebody else achieved, by saying like you didn't want it anyway. These are all jealousy masks, but are common in the female condition, however you want to put it. Like jabbing on somebody, microaggressions, these are all signals and masks that you might be struggling with deep-rooted envy and jealousy. So remember that the feminine woman doesn't hide from the truth, she alchemizes it to her advantage in her own life, and she accepts the circumstances that she cannot control. Returning to feminine joy is understanding that multiple emotions can exist at the same time. There's like that concept of feminine rage, for example, and it just shows that the feminine is deeply emotional, but emotional in the best way. When we talk about emotional regularity as a feminine woman, it is the art of being raw and accepting your emotions, but choosing to be happy at the same time. Feminine women can feel all different things at the same time, but the healthy feminine woman chooses to let these flow through her. This is why we are the masters of teaching children how to regulate their emotions. Because when you address a toddler and their emotions, forcing to discipline them and not letting them take over like their entire mood and have a huge tantrum, but we acknowledge their emotions. We acknowledge them as valid, but we tell them that they are inappropriate. The secret to a well-rounded feminine life is not about being better than another woman. It's not about being the best at whatever your situation is. It's about, again, feeling joyful anyway. So a few other tricks that I wrote down when you are like going through these emotions, you could ask yourself in the moment, when do I feel the most alive, the most like myself? What makes me laugh When was the last time I felt proud of myself? And what is beautiful in my life today? I am going to talk about the importance of gratitude over on my member side of the channel through my second video about the angelic wife, which I'm doing the voiceover to soon. You want gratitude and that ability to set boundaries that we mentioned at the beginning of the video, not to be the ultimate solution to your feminine jealousy problem. That's why we went deeper in this video. But tools to help lead you back to joy. So once you get the root, then you can use those tools, lead you back to feminine radiance. Lastly, I want to leave on a point in a short poetic style section for the woman who feels behind in life, because oftentimes on this channel and in the femininity community, we talk about the importance of marriage, motherhood, and it can be discouraging sometimes when you feel as though you're working so hard at these things, but you're just not measuring up to other people, or you just haven't achieved it, and you can't just like totally manifest a husband, even though again, God knows the desires of your heart. That faux like, if I manifest hard enough, I can get it, is fake. You don't feel like you're measuring up enough. I just want you to know that you are not broken. Acknowledge your jealousy, sit with it, and accept that you might be in a quiet season, a sacred pause, a time in your life where things are standing still. Jealousy doesn't make you a bad woman, but letting it fester is a problem. That is what dims your feminine light. And the beauty in the quiet season and acknowledging these emotions, taking ownership of them, the raw, uncomfortable emotions, is that eventually you will feel that jealousy is no longer a threat. You will not feel chained by envy and jealousy. You will be the teacher. You will be the one that helps another feminine woman, just like I'm trying to do today on this video to whoever out there needs to hear it. And you will be able to likewise bless somebody else and honestly change the entire trajectory of the way that she views her life as a feminine woman. Come back to yourself, come back to your softness, reroute yourself to your unique feminine path. Thanks so much to everybody who watched today's video, who hit the like button, who has left comments down below, and of course, again, my members. This is a small channel, and the help of my members really does help me pour back into better equipment, pour back into the software that I use, all that kind of stuff. It really does make a difference, even though it all goes on behind the scenes. I will see you next time, lovely feminine friends. Bye-bye.